JFK Jr. was born into a family of power and politics. He was an icon from birth, widely regarded as America's prince. Later in life, he found himself constantly being pursued by the paparazzi, which only intensified after he wed Carolyn Bessette. From his years as most eligible bachelor to life with Carolyn, to that day in July 1999 when tragedy struck. This is how the news covered JFK Jr.'s professional and private life.
We first met him as the playful boy in the Oval Office, then the brave little soldier at his father's funeral. It's an image that will be forever burned into the public's imagination. Little JFK Jr. saluting his father's casket. 38-year-old John F. Kennedy Jr. was born 2.5 weeks after his father's election on Thanksgiving Day, 1960, the only child ever born to a president-elect. He would go on to grow up in the public eye, from Little John John to the sexiest man alive. And while he may have been a reluctant idol for many, he was the embodiment of the Kennedy mystique, young, good-looking, and seemingly invulnerable. After the assassination, Jackie moved John and his older sister Caroline to Manhattan and made it a point to shield her children from the spotlight.
She was determined to give those children a normal life, and she went to great extremes to do it.
And her children were not out being spied upon, photographed, and stared at out in public.
Absolutely true, yeah, I didn't pass the bar. I'm obviously very disappointed.
But despite Jackie's attempts, John especially was a magnet for the media, making headlines in 1990 when he flunked the bar exam.
Next time you guys are here, it'll be a happier occasion.
And it was. John passed the bar after his third try and went on to work for the DA's office, where he won all 6 of the cases he worked on.
It's pretty sweet at the moment. I don't think that I've seen as many of you in one place since they announced the results of my first bar exam.
But in 1995, JFK Jr. gave up law to launch George magazine.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet George.
And with George, JFK Jr. paved his own way. And while like his father, he had a taste for Hollywood starlets, like his mother, he also had a taste for normalcy, biking through Central Park, taking the train, rollerblading, and refusing to play out his private life in public.
From one rumor to another, JFK's dating life fueled the tabloids, and the paparazzi all clamored to get the perfect shot.
Well, the summer days are getting shorter, the temperatures are getting cooler, and the rumors about America's most eligible bachelor are getting hotter. The big question in the hunk update: who was John Kennedy Jr.'s date at cousin Tony Radzawill's wedding in East Hampton over the weekend? Well, last week's rumors that Calvin Klein's assistant, Caroline Bessette, is the new squeeze have taken shape in this week's People magazine. A chivalrous John John helped her into her kayak skirt off Cape Cod. As for John's on again, off again, on again, ex Daryl Hannah, no sign of her at the wedding. As for brief flame Julie Baker, that courtship may be more fizzle than sizzle now, although a celebrity spy thought she might have seen her in John's arms on the beach.
I saw JFK Jr. running by me on the beach, and I followed him down, and he joined a woman who looked very much like Julie Baker. And they lied down on some towels together, and they looked like they were having a really good time. JFK Jr. looked really hot.
Bottom line, the available John seemed dateless as he spent Sunday frolicking with a famous blonde, his sister Caroline.
In 1995, JFK Jr. jumped into politics with the launch of his pioneering political magazine called George. It merged politics with pop culture. The first edition featured model Cindy Crawford as George Washington on the cover.
Well, a huge buzz about the launch of a new political magazine. Why is everyone gaga over George?
It's JFK Jr. by George. The magazine is the brainchild of the sexiest man alive, which may help sell some copies. Fox 5's Taryn Levitt is downtown for the big coming out party. Taryn.
That's right, Lynn. I am downtown in front of Federal Hall, which is the nation's first capital, where the boy who was shy from the media most of his life is now thrust in the spotlight, but from now on, John Kennedy Jr. will be on the other side of the media circus as co-founder and editor of George.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet George.
George the Monthly made its inaugural presentation to the media on the exact site where George Washington, the president, made his inaugural address to the nation. He probably didn't look quite so good, but this rather irreverent picture sets the tone for a magazine which promises a mix of substance and entertainment. It's certainly getting a lot of hype.
I don't think that I've seen as many of you in one place since they announced the results of my first bar exam.
John Kennedy Jr. failed that exam, but he's determined to be successful here. He plans to be a hands-on leader involved with everything from ad sales to content.
George looks different because George is different. It's a combination of intelligence and irreverence, and I hope you'll find it refreshing.
Up to now, George has been most celebrated for its co-founder. Cameras had followed the reluctant celebrity all his life, right up to his rumored engagement to live-in girlfriend Carolyn Bessette. To that, he even had a quip today.
The answers to the most frequently asked personal questions are as follows. Yes, no, we're merely good friends, none of your business, honest, she's my cousin from Rhode Island. I've worn both, maybe someday, but not in New Jersey.
But today was George's day, even served on a silver platter with support of friends like Maurice Templesman, Kennedy's mother's longtime boyfriend. And as you can see, the cover is Cindy Crawford dressed as George. The subtitle is Not Just Politics as Usual, and it plans to show the inner workings of politics. The magazine also plans to be nonpartisan, despite the Kennedy family's long affiliation with the Democratic Party. At Federal Hall, I'm Taryn Levitt, Fox News. Back to you, Lynn.
Okay, that is some cover. Thanks very much. Well, George will hit the newsstands September the 26th.
You know, when it comes to scandals, the Kennedy family has more than most. When it comes to covering them up and keeping quiet about them, the Kennedy family does that better than most. That's why John Kennedy has sent shockwaves through Camelot.
Well, he's naked in his magazine, but what he wrote next to that is causing the most comment. He's taking on his own family. In the September issue of his magazine, George, he talks about his cousins, Michael Kennedy and Congressman Joe Kennedy. He writes, both became poster boys for bad behavior. Perhaps they deserved it. Perhaps they should have known better. To whom much is given, much is expected, right? Well, his editorial comments threaten to touch off a family feud inside one of the most famous clans in the nation. Dressed only in artful lighting and posed like the biblical Adam, John F. Kennedy Jr. brings family scandals to the readers of the September issue of his political magazine, George. Kennedy writes about two cousins, Congressman Joseph Kennedy, who was criticized by his ex-wife for forcing her to get an annulment, and Michael Kennedy, who allegedly had an affair with a 14-year-old babysitter, saying they had become poster boys for bad behavior.
You know, he attempts in some funny way to let them off the hook, to suggest that we are at fault for demanding moral behavior.
Kennedy's letter was an uncharacteristically public comment, drawing attention to the 2-year-old magazine he edits. His cousin suggests that that was his intent.
I guess my first reaction was, ask not what you can do for your cousin, but what you can do for his magazine.
George magazine was introduced 2 years ago in what one expert called the most exciting magazine launch ever. But George's content is considered less cutting edge than expected.
John Kennedy is carving out, a career for himself, which is, different from the typical Kennedy career of going into politics. He's a journalist.
Taking your clothes off it's got nothing to do with journalism last I checked.
Officials with the magazine had little comment.
I think was aware that it would cause some controversy, but John knows what he's doing.
He's my cousin, he's my friend, and that's the end of it. I made my statement. You got a good soundbite today. Come on. Well,
September is a big month for magazines, and some in the industry are speculating that that's why JFK Jr. took off his clothes and the traditional Kennedy family cloak of silence.
The once most eligible bachelor took himself off the market when he proposed to Carolyn Bessette.
And finally, JFK Jr. has reportedly popped the question to his lady love, Caroline Bessette. They live together in a Tribeca apartment, but apparently she has yet to say yes. She is said to be concerned about a reported dalliance between her beau and actress Sharon Stone this summer in Martha's Vineyard.
Eventually, Carolyn said yes. But was there trouble in paradise?
Something is apparently rocking the Love Boat at John F. Kennedy Jr.'s house.
And when one of America's most eligible bachelors goes at it with his girlfriend, you know heads will turn and talk about it. Down in Tribeca, that's where Penny is. Penny, what happened?
Well, I got to tell you this. We're standing right in front of the building where JFK Jr. and his girlfriend reportedly hang out. Talk about a story. Wait till you hear about the one about JFK Jr. and the love of his life. Both the New York Post and the Daily News are reporting the couple locked horns for all the world to see. Apparently, JFK Jr. and his 32-year-old girlfriend, Carolyn Bessette, left their apartment building last Sunday afternoon. According to Cindy Adams in the New York Post, there was a photographer lurking in the bushes. He reportedly saw the couple with their dog, Sam. Sam, JFK Jr. and Carolyn then walked to a nearby park, and that's when they went at it. Both the Daily News and the Post are reporting there is video and pictures showing Kennedy grappling with Bessette viciously. Carolyn is seen shoving him back. The pictures, which are now in the hands of the National Enquirer, also show the pair fighting over a ring Kennedy gave Bessette. And then when Bessette gets the ring back, they fight over Sam, their dog. At one point, the papers say, Kennedy is heard on tape saying, "You've got the ring, now you want the dog too?" Well, then the papers say Bessette takes off, and Kennedy is seen sobbing on a nearby park bench. If you're dying to see the pictures, you can take a look at the National Enquirer. Apparently, they're going to have them, and as far as the tape is concerned, apparently everyone in the entire world is bidding to buy that tape. So eventually, I'm sure somebody's going to see these two going at it. Until then, I'm Penny Crone, Fox News, in front of their apartment building.
Just 1 year later, was the marriage already on the rocks?
And is John Kennedy Jr.'s marriage to Carolyn Bessette on the rocks? There's a report of a big argument this summer where the word divorce was used, and Penny Crone is here with the inside scoop.
Well, Carol, we all know that some people just love to fight in public. Take, for example, John Kennedy Jr. and his wife, Carolyn Bessette. They reportedly had a giant battle beginning on a continental flight from Newark to Martha's Vineyard. Boston Magazine is reporting a spy on the flight told them John and Carolyn were hitting below the seatbelt.
JFK Jr. and Carolyn have been married a little more than 1 year. Now there's reportedly trouble in paradise. A magazine reports that the couple began fighting on the way to Jackie Kennedy's estate on Martha's Vineyard this summer. John reportedly shouted for everyone on the 12-seater plane to hear, "Maybe we should get divorced. We, bleeped, talked about it enough." Carolyn shouted back, "Oh no, we waited for your mother to die to get married. We're waiting for my mother to die to get a divorce." Star Magazine reports the fight had to do with Kennedy's former girlfriend, Daryl Hannah, staying in a hotel near the estate a week before, while John was on the island without his wife. However, last month, Carolyn and John celebrated their anniversary together with a romantic weekend on California's Big Sur. And just this weekend, she went with John to Lenox Hill Hospital, where he checked in for hand surgery.
And we also have to say that last week the couple was spotted all lovey-dovey. Kennedy's office has refused to comment about any of the reports.
Well, he was the sexiest man alive, and she was his lady love. Now the ill-fated marriage of JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette involves a third player, the other man. And it's all detailed in a brand new book that is just out. And publisher Judith Regan is joining us right now to talk about it. Judith, thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it. So Michael Bergen, he's the other man. How did he go about becoming the other man? What's the role
Well, Michael
here?
Bergen was a small-town boy who came to New York City to become a model. He'd never been in New York City before, and
Right.
about a month in, he met Carolyn Bessette in a bar one night, and they fell in love, and they had this mad, passionate relationship, and a few years into it, she became involved with JFK Jr.
Okay.
And it broke Michael's heart that she married JFK Jr., but about a year into the marriage, less than a year into the marriage, she called him and wanted to see him and flew out to LA, and according to Michael, they spent 11 days together in Los Angeles, and that was when their affair during her marriage to JFK began.
Okay. So why did Carolyn continue the affair with him? I mean, that's the whole reason, that she's not really attracted to JFK Jr.?
Well, this was during the relationship with Michael. You know, he was involved with her. She was the girlfriend.
Right.
And you know how that goes. Oh, well, no, you know, we're just friends.
Right.
We're just friends. You know, I'm not really interested in him, and he's pursuing me. And, you know, the deceit that people perpetrate upon each other, it
Right,
happens in
right.
relationships.
Yeah, it's so hard to believe because you see JFK Jr., but let's face it, it can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody, but one of the things that I think we learn from this story, and if you watch the A&E special tonight, you'll really see it, and if you read the book, you really understand it, is that despite the fame and the money and the glory and the power and all the things that we seek in this culture, beauty and so on and so forth, that in people's hearts, the thing that they really care about is their human attachment, is their tender and loving feelings for each other. And we really don't know what goes on in marriages. We really don't understand what goes on in marriages. And I think in the A&E special tonight and in the book, you get a glimpse into the heart of Carolyn Bessette, who was, by Michael Bergen's description, a very interesting woman. Very funny, very amusing, very smart, very captivating, very sophisticated. And we see her for the first time in this special. There's videotape that no one's ever seen before.
Right.
And she's a complicated woman. You know, by day she was this incredibly sophisticated publicist for Calvin Klein, you know, a woman on top of her game. But she was also a vulnerable woman who needed to be loved and needed to have that feeling of safety in a man's arms.
Well, you know, it's going to be a controversial book. You know, because you got him claiming one thing, and he's going to be criticized a lot as well, because he's coming out, he's talking now when two people who are dead who cannot defend themselves.
Well, I don't think that anyone needs to defend themselves, because I think if you read the book and if you watch him, you'll understand that the portrait that is of Michael and Carolyn and John, these are three complicated people with a lot of complex emotions, and there's no condemning of people. It's just...
In 1999, tragedy once again hit the Kennedy family. This time, when the plane John was piloting crashed into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, killing him, Carolyn, and her sister Lauren.
Here's the very latest on the search for remains and wreckage of the Piper Saratoga that was carrying John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife Carolyn, and her sister Lauren. At this very moment, divers are heading back into the waters off Martha's Vineyard. Coast Guard crews will continue the very grim task of search and recovery. Today's search will focus on two potential targets on the ocean floor. Divers are using side-scan sonar to help get an accurate snapshot of objects in the ocean. And more information coming out about the hours leading up to the so-called fatal flight. Today, a strange twist. New York Post columnist Cindy Adams reports that John F. Kennedy Jr. told a prominent Kennedy biographer that he didn't feel all that secure about flying into the Martha's Vineyard airport. The biographer also says that John Jr. felt he had to because his wife insisted he drop off her sister. There are also reports that the flight was supposed to begin hours earlier during the daylight, and one reason it was delayed was because Lauren Bessette had to work late.
Now the search is focused off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. Our Bill Rapley has the latest from there.
Maria and Mario, conditions out here are just terrible at this point. You can see behind me the fog is rolling in off of the water. You can barely even see the ocean from these cliffs. It's got to have a negative impact on the search. But the urgency of this mission has decreased significantly since officials last night determined that there will be no survivors from this crash. Now the object of the search is to find the wreckage of the 6-seat Piper Saratoga, which disappeared off the radar screen at Martha's Vineyard Airport on Friday night. Small pieces of the plane and some personal items of the passengers Carolyn Kennedy and her sister Lauren have been recovered. But if there's a large section of the plane intact, that's what the searchers are trying to find. They're using sonar devices, and in the last 2 days they have been able to find some potential sites.
There are some targets. We're going to utilize the Massachusetts State Police divers to do some targets. If there are targets left over, then we'll utilize the grasp to prosecute those targets.
Divers from the Massachusetts State Police will be the first ones into the water today. There's also a Navy salvage ship coming up from Virginia, bringing another complement of divers. So searchers here are confident that if there is any wreckage to be found out there, they do have the resources to find it. On the western tip of Martha's Vineyard, Bill Rapley, Fox 5 News.
Have you ever seen a rainbow go? Do you want to see a heart get broken? I didn't think so. I didn't think so. Don't say goodbye when you don't have to go. I'd rather hear need to know. See you later would suit me fine. You can use that one anytime. Tell me anything that you